Palantir is a controversial company built by some controversial founders, particularly Alex Karp and Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel famously seeded Facebook's investment, made 5,000x on that investment because he invested in Facebook's pre-seed round, I believe $500,000 for something like 10% or 7% of the company. Obviously, Facebook went on to be a multi-$100 billion company. By the way, I have a startup. You should check it out in the description. Please let me know your thoughts on that because I'm also trying to become as rich as Mark, and if not as rich as Mark, then hopefully kind of close, because that would be pretty cool. Anyway, Peter Thiel has just funded another startup. He's the co-founder of Palantir, and Palantir has been doing some work in Ukraine. Palantir is one of the only companies that has decided to take away the moral stigmatism of whatever you want to call it and not work with countries like Russia and China because they are dictatorial regimes, and work with democracies and help those democracies in times of need. Peter Thiel, obviously a co-founder of Palantir, so it makes sense why Palantir has been helping Ukraine. He has now backed a German startup delivering drones to Ukraine. This is a very interesting article by Bloomberg that we're about to get into. Billionaires said the Quantum Systems is leaps ahead of rivals, and the company plans docking stations to charge and launch drones. So German drone developer Quantum Systems has received $17.5 million in funding from new investors, including U.S. billionaire Peter Thiel and German firms Project A Ventures and Sano Capital. Thiel hailed Quantum Systems, which supplies the Ukrainian armed forces with reconnaissance drones, I definitely messed up that word, I'm sorry, as leaps ahead of the competition, according to a statement on Sunday. Now, before we get into this even further, why is Peter Thiel funding this type of company? Well, obviously, Palantir is working in Ukraine. Peter Thiel wants to help Ukraine, wants to help the West, wants to help protect Western freedoms, which is kind of the overarching mission of a company like Palantir. So if you've got something like a drone technology company that is able to actually, or you've got a startup that is able to deliver drones to Ukraine, especially in this time of need because the war is still going on, then that makes sense for Thiel ideologically to align with funding this company. Quantum Systems is developing docking stations that allowed unmanned aerial vehicles to be charged and deployed without human operations for use by the military, border patrol, mining companies, and for surveillance in cities, Chief Executive Officer Florian Sabel said in an interview. The future of UAS, unmanned aircraft systems, is in neither software nor hardware alone, but in the intelligence synthesis of the two, said Thiel of Quantum Systems' approach. Now, this also makes sense because Thiel runs a venture capital firm called Founders Fund, and Founders Fund has also invested in Anduril Industries. Anduril Industries, I mean, that quote about not hardware or software, but the intelligent synthesis of the two in order to help for defense or for mission critical situations is exactly what Anduril Industries focuses on. And Anduril Industries works with Palantir in a variety of different ways. Most recently, they are the subcontractor under Palantir being the main contractor, competing for the Army Titan contract, which is a $36 million contract. They're competing against Raytheon and I believe Lockheed Martin for that deal. Quantum Systems has supplied 42 drones to support the Ukraine Army via the German Armed Forces. Siebel added that the process of military tech development and procurement in Europe is too slow. We cannot keep spending hundreds of billions of dollars to develop technology that is outdated once it gets deployed. Now, couple of things here. One may argue, so let me read this again. Quantum Systems is developing docking stations that allow unmanned aerial vehicles to be charged and deployed without human operations for use by the military, border patrol, mining companies, and surveillance in cities. One may argue that that is a bad thing, right? That's like surveillance capitalism, or those are companies that are doing too much in the context of surveillance and ultimately violating people's civil liberties. And that's probably the gut reaction a lot of people get when they see something like drones that are doing things in the surveillance space. I think one of the things to understand about Peter Thiel, and this is something every Palantir shareholder should understand, but every investor in general, if you're following Peter Thiel, which you should be, because I think he's, one of the top 5 investors of all time, probably, is that he deeply does not like the government. Like, this guy has talked about wanting to live in places that are full anarchy. He is not a fan of the government. So you may be asking, well, why did he build a company like Palantir that is getting $800 million of governmental contracts in 1 month? Well, the reason is because there is a healthy balance between the government and its citizens. And many times, Peter Thiel, obviously a member of the Libertarian Party who believes in limited government, believes that the government oversteps the boundaries. So the way for the government to not overstep its boundaries is to have technology available so that it doesn't violate civil liberties, so that it doesn't hurt more and more people. And the only way you do that is if you have software that is so pristine, so clear, so so keen at being able to do the thing that it needs to do, which in this case is use data analytic systems to be able to measure different things and make sure that you can do cross collaboration of different things with different agencies within the government, like the CIA and FBI can use Palantir theoretically to be able to observe different data without seeing things that you're not supposed to see, without sharing the sensitive parts that are not supposed to be seen. So the reason Peter Thiel invests in these companies is because he thinks there's actually a way for them to work with governmental agencies in order to protect citizens from being and having their civil rights and their civil liberties violated by the government. He is someone who, the way I've analyzed him and I've tried to understand him, is not someone who's trying to just get money off of other people being violated via the government. He is very, very ideologically opposed to the government having too much power. You watch any interview of this guy, and that's basically what he says. So investing in these companies is primarily rooted in actually helping citizens become protected. The other reason I believe he's investing in this company is because Ukraine is, if Russia defeats Ukraine, this creates a horrible precedent. It almost guarantees China will invade Taiwan, even though China's already thinking of invading Taiwan. And it also establishes the precedent that Western democracies will do nothing in the face of dictatorial regimes hurting other sovereign independent nations. So you need everything. You need absolutely everything you can do to make sure Russia does not fully defeat Ukraine. There's probably going to be some compromise at the end of the day, but it's better that they don't destroy them. And the Ukrainian army has held up very well, and Palantir software may be playing a role for why they've held up very well. But funding these types of companies and these types of startups that are actually able to help them in mission critical situations with the synthesis, the symbiotic relationship of hardware and software being able to actually develop the things that need to be developed in order to help you in that mission critical situation, that to me is Peter Thiel's agenda at this moment. I know a lot of people think it's politics, and maybe it is politics, to be honest, because he hasn't really been in the public eye for a while. Maybe he's preparing for 2024. But more importantly, in my opinion, his agenda is focused on actually making sure that Western democracies are safe and that a company like Palantir and companies that he's investing millions of dollars into can sustain those freedoms for a longer time and the sovereignty of different nations. So Peter Thiel, new investment, new company. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.